I was at rock bottom. I had nothing left. I had lost my job, my confidence, and my will to keep going. I was on the edge, staring into the abyss, convinced that I would never find a way out. But in that dark moment, something incredible happened. One decision, one single choice, and everything changed. What if I told you that one choice could completely turn your life around? That everything you've been waiting for, everything you've been striving for, is just one decision away. That's exactly what happened to me. I didn't know it at the time, but that one moment of clarity, that single moment of courage, was the catalyst for everything that followed. It took me from despair to triumph, from failure to success. And here's the truth, it can happen for you too. Today, I'm sharing how that one decision turned my life around, and how you can make the same life-changing choice. Stay with me, because what I'm about to tell you could change everything for you. I used to wake up every day feeling lost, hopeless, and stuck. Every morning felt like a battle to get out of bed. No matter how hard I tried, no matter how much I pushed myself, I couldn't break free from the cycle of failure. Does that sound familiar? Maybe you feel like you're trapped in your own life, going through the motions, but not really moving forward. Maybe you feel like no matter how many times you try, you just can't seem to get ahead. It's like you're stuck in a dead end, and no matter how much you want to escape, you just can't find the way out. I get it. I've been there. I was that person. The person who thought that no matter what I did, I would never be able to change my situation. It felt like I was caught in this never-ending cycle of disappointment and despair. But here's the thing. I was wrong. I thought I'd never get out of that pit of despair. I thought I was doomed to stay in that place of hopelessness forever. But then, something shifted. It wasn't a miracle. It wasn't some external force that came and saved me. It was a decision. A simple decision. That's the moment everything changed. It wasn't a grand revelation or an epiphany. It was just a moment of clarity where I realized that I didn't have to keep going down the same path. I realized I had the power to choose differently, to take control of my life and my future. That decision wasn't easy, and it didn't happen overnight, but it was the catalyst for everything that followed. And I'm here to tell you something incredibly important right now. You can make that decision today. You don't have to wait for the perfect moment. You don't have to wait for things to magically fall into place. All you need is the courage to make one decision, to take one step toward change. And once you do that, you'll be amazed at what you can achieve. We all go through dark times. We all face struggles, failures, and moments when we feel like we can't go on. But the truth is, the power to change your life is within you. All it takes is one choice, one decision to fight for yourself. So, if you're ready to hear about how I went from feeling completely lost to finding my way again, then keep listening. I'm about to share with you how that one decision turned everything around, and how you can make the same powerful choice today. I had reached my breaking point. I was about to lose everything, again. I could feel it in my bones, the weight of failure pressing down on me like a ton of bricks. Every step I took felt like I was sinking deeper into quicksand, and no matter how hard I struggled, I couldn't seem to pull myself out. I had tried everything. I had poured my heart and soul into my goals. But one failure after another had chipped away at my confidence. My dreams were slipping further and further away, and it seemed like the harder I fought, the worse it got. That's when I hit rock bottom. The moment I realized that I was about to lose it all. I was staring at the ruins of everything I had worked for, wondering if there was even any point in continuing. I could already hear the voice of defeat whispering in my ear, telling me that it was over. But deep down, something inside me refused to give up. I had two choices in that moment. I could stay down. I could let life walk all over me and accept that I was just one of those people who would never make it. Or I could fight back. I could choose to stand up, take control of my life, and make a decision that would change everything. But I wasn't sure if I was ready for that. The fear, the uncertainty, the pressure, it was all too much. The thought of facing the same failures again was terrifying. I had already been broken so many times, and I wasn't sure if I had the strength to pick up the pieces. But then, just when I thought things couldn't get worse, they did. A series of events, one after the other, pushed me to my absolute limit. My relationships were falling apart, my finances were in ruins, and I was losing my sense of self. It felt like the universe had decided that I wasn't allowed to succeed. Every day felt like a battle, and every night was filled with anxiety and fear about the future. But instead of breaking me, it woke me up. In that moment of crisis, when everything seemed hopeless, I had an epiphany. I realized that I had been playing the victim for far too long. I had spent so much time blaming the world, blaming circumstances, blaming other people, that I had forgotten one crucial truth. I was in control of my own life. I wasn't a victim of my circumstances. I wasn't a prisoner of my failures. I had the power to change my path. The question wasn't whether I could change my life. It was whether I was willing to fight for it. The real question wasn't, could I rise from the ashes? It was, would I rise from the ashes? Would I let this moment define me, or would I choose to let it fuel my transformation? Would I let failure keep me down, or would I use it as the fire to push me forward? It was terrifying. It was uncertain. But in that moment, I made a choice. I decided that I wasn't going to let this be the end of my story. I wasn't going to let failure define who I was. I decided to rise. I knew it wasn't going to be easy. The road ahead would be full of challenges, setbacks, and obstacles. But for the first time in a long time, I felt a flicker of hope. I knew that if I took control, if I made the decision to change, things could be different. I didn't know exactly how, but I knew that I had to start somewhere. That's the turning point I'm talking about, the moment when everything changes. It's not some grand, dramatic event. It's a simple choice. A choice to stop making excuses, to stop living in fear, and to stop letting life dictate who you are. And when I made that choice, everything began to shift. Slowly at first, but the change was undeniable. Little by little, I started to see results. My mindset shifted. I began to believe in myself again, and the world around me started to respond. The pain didn't go away instantly, but something inside me had shifted. I was no longer waiting for life to change for me. I was taking control. So when life knocks you down, when everything seems lost, remember this: you have a choice. You can either stay down or you can rise. And if you choose to rise, there's no telling how far you can go. For days, I questioned myself. The self-doubt was unbearable. I'd wake up in the morning with a heavy heart, wondering if I was good enough to succeed. Was I meant to be someone who made it, or was I destined to be just another failure? It felt like a constant battle, one that was fought inside my own mind. I couldn't escape it. No matter how much I tried to push through, The fear and doubt seemed to follow me like a shadow. I couldn't shake the feeling that maybe I wasn't cut out for success. Maybe all my dreams, all the things I had worked so hard for, were just illusions. It was easy to listen to that voice telling me that I wasn't enough, that I didn't deserve what I wanted. And I'll admit, there were times when I believed it. I questioned every decision, every choice I made. Was I really making the right moves, or was I just wasting time? Every failure I faced seemed to affirm the doubts in my mind. But it wasn't just the external struggles that were wearing me down. It was the internal conflict, the war within myself that was the hardest to fight. I would look at my past failures and feel like they were chains holding me back, keeping me stuck in a place of uncertainty. The weight of them felt unbearable. Each time I stumbled, it felt like a personal failure. And with every setback, the fear grew stronger. What if I couldn't overcome it? What if I couldn't break free from this cycle of disappointment? There were moments when I wanted to give up, to surrender to the fear that had taken over my mind. It would have been easier to quit, to let the darkness swallow me whole and walk away from everything I had dreamed of. But then something incredible happened. In the midst of my struggle, when I was at my lowest, I had a breakthrough. It wasn't some sudden, grand revelation. It didn't come with flashing lights or fireworks. It came quietly, like a whisper in my soul. I realized something that changed everything. I didn't need to wait for a perfect moment. The moment to change, to take control, was now. For so long, I had been waiting for the right time to act. I told myself, I'll make a change when everything is perfect. When I have the right plan. When I have all the answers. But in reality, that moment would never come. Perfection didn't exist. The perfect time was a myth. I had been holding on to the belief that things had to align in a certain way before I could make a move. But that was just fear disguised as caution. Fear of failure, fear of judgment, fear of stepping out of my comfort zone. What I came to understand was that the very act of waiting for the perfect moment was what was keeping me stuck. The waiting was the problem. The fear of making mistakes, the hesitation, the constant questioning of whether I was good enough. These were the chains that were holding me back. And the only way to break free was to take action now, even if it wasn't perfect, even if I didn't have all the answers. I realized that failure wasn't the end. It was a part of the process. Each mistake, each setback, was an opportunity to learn, to grow, to improve. The only real failure was giving up. As long as I kept moving forward, I was on the path to success. But it wasn't easy. In those moments of doubt, I had to remind myself of this truth. I had to consciously choose to push through the fear, to fight against the negative thoughts that tried to creep in. Every day felt like a mental battle, and some days it felt like I was losing. But I kept telling myself, just one more step. Just keep going. The only way out is through. There were times when I felt like the weight of my past failures was too much to bear. It was like carrying a backpack full of bricks, each failure a heavy stone that weighed me down further. But every time I made the choice to push through, to keep going despite the doubts, I felt a little lighter. I began to realize that my past didn't define me. The mistakes I had made didn't have to determine my future. It was my choice whether I let those failures control me, or whether I used them as fuel to propel me forward. The fear didn't disappear overnight. The doubts didn't vanish in an instant, but I learned to take them in stride, to acknowledge them, and keep moving anyway. I learned that the struggle was part of the journey, and that my internal conflict was something I had to face head-on, not run from. In those moments of doubt, I began to shift my mindset. I stopped focusing on the things I couldn't control and started focusing on what I could do right now. The more I did this, the more I realized that I had the power to shape my destiny. No one else could do it for me. I had to be the one to decide to take action, to decide to rise above the fear and uncertainty. And so, I made a pact with myself. I wouldn't wait for the perfect moment anymore. I wouldn't wait until everything was aligned. I would act now, in the middle of the struggle, in the middle of the fear, because that was the only way I was going to get to where I wanted to be. If you're sitting there, waiting for everything to be perfect before you make a change, let me tell you this: you're wasting precious time. There will never be a perfect moment. The perfect moment is now. The moment you decide that you're ready, that you're not going to let fear control you anymore, that's when the transformation begins. So don't wait. Don't sit around hoping for things to magically get better. Take action, even if it's imperfect, because that one step, that one decision, could be the beginning of everything you've ever wanted. The moment I made that decision, everything shifted. It wasn't some dramatic, overnight transformation, but deep within me, something clicked. I wasn't going to wait for the right time anymore. I wasn't going to let fear hold me back any longer. The time for excuses was over. It was time to show up, day after day, and put in the work. At first, it felt like I was walking uphill, battling against every ounce of resistance in my body. I won't lie, the road was hard. There were days when I felt like I was going nowhere, like my progress was so small it was barely noticeable. But something inside me told me to keep going. It was as if I had finally understood that the journey wasn't about big leaps, but small steps. The little wins, the tiny breakthroughs, they added up over time. I started small. Maybe it was waking up an hour earlier to work on my goals. Maybe it was taking one more step towards something I had been avoiding. But every time I took action, I gained a little more confidence. I started believing in myself more than I had in a long time. And then, something started to happen. The results, while still small, began to show up. I didn't hit my big breakthrough immediately. It wasn't like a switch was flipped, and suddenly everything was perfect. But I started noticing the changes, little by little. I felt stronger. I felt more capable. I was no longer drowning in self-doubt. There was one day when I caught a glimpse of the person I was becoming. It was like a small victory that I couldn't ignore. I had been struggling with a major setback, but I pushed through. I faced the challenge head-on instead of running from it. And that day, I realized something profound. I wasn't the same person I had been a few months ago. I had grown. I had fought. I had started to understand what true strength really meant. And that's when I realized how important those small wins were. Each win, no matter how insignificant it seemed at the time, was proof that I was on the right track. Every little success, every small moment of progress, was a brick in the foundation I was building. It was the culmination of all the hard work, the sacrifices, the days when I felt like giving up, but kept pushing forward anyway. But it wasn't just about the results. It was about the process. I started to enjoy the struggle. It didn't feel like a burden anymore. I began to see that every challenge was an opportunity to grow. Every time I faced a setback, I became more resilient. Every failure taught me something new. I was no longer afraid of falling short. Instead, I embraced the possibility that failure might be the very thing that propelled me forward. The journey wasn't easy, and I'm not going to sugarcoat it. There were days when I wanted to quit. There were days when the doubt crept back in, and I questioned whether I was doing the right thing. But I didn't stop. I kept moving. Slowly, but surely, I saw the results. And it wasn't just the external victories that mattered. It was the internal change. I was becoming a person who didn't give up. I was becoming someone who took responsibility for their life, no matter how messy it seemed. The more I fought, the stronger I became. It wasn't just about pushing through the hard days. It was about realizing that the struggle was part of the process, not something to avoid. I stopped waiting for things to get easier and started embracing the grind. I began to understand that the struggle itself was what would shape me into the person I needed to become. As the days went on, I began to see progress in ways I hadn't expected. My confidence grew with every win. Every challenge I overcame made me stronger, and eventually, I started to see real results. I had built momentum. I had created a foundation that was now strong enough to carry me forward. And that's when I realized the comeback isn't about the big moments. It's about the small steps you take every day. It's about the quiet victories that happen when no one is watching. The true comeback is not in the grand gestures. It's in the consistency, the determination, and the belief that you can turn your life around, one small win at a time. You don't have to be perfect. You don't have to have it all figured out. You just have to keep going. That's what I did. I kept going, even when it felt like nothing was changing. And eventually, I looked back and saw how far I had come. The road may not have been smooth, but each step was worth it. If you're reading this and feeling like you're stuck in the same place I was, I want you to hear this. You can change your life. It doesn't happen overnight, but it happens. If I can do it, so can you. The power is within you. The strength you need to make a comeback is already there. You just have to decide to use it. And here's the truth. It doesn't matter where you are right now. The comeback is not defined by your current circumstances. It's defined by your decision to rise, no matter how many times you've fallen. You don't have to wait for the perfect time. The time to act is now. The time to fight is now. You're not alone in this. If I can overcome the struggles, if I can turn my life around with one decision, then you can too. The road ahead won't always be easy, but I promise you, it will be worth it. Keep fighting. Keep pushing. Keep believing in yourself. Because the comeback you've been waiting for is within your reach. You just have to decide to take the first step. Looking back, I barely recognize the person I once was. It's almost surreal how different my life is now compared to where I was before. I went from feeling lost, broken, and hopeless to becoming someone who has purpose, drive, and the resilience to face any challenge that comes my way. And it all started with one decision. One decision that, at the time, felt insignificant. But in hindsight, I realized it was the catalyst for everything that followed. You see, when you're in the middle of your struggles, it's hard to see how small actions can lead to massive change. It's easy to feel overwhelmed by the weight of your problems, to think that there's no way out. But that's where I was wrong. The shift didn't happen when I started making grand gestures or when everything magically aligned. It happened when I took control of my choices. When I chose to stop letting my circumstances define me. And let me tell you something. That one decision was the beginning of a journey I could never have imagined. I went from feeling like a victim of life to becoming the architect of my own future. I realized that the power I had been searching for wasn't somewhere out there in the world. It was within me, all along. I started to understand that true transformation doesn't happen overnight. It's a slow and steady process. It's the accumulation of all those small decisions you make every day to keep going, to keep fighting, even when it seems like nothing is changing. But over time, those decisions add up. They start to build momentum, and before you know it, you've created something incredible. Something you can be proud of. As I continued my journey, I began to notice the shifts. I wasn't just growing in terms of results. I was changing as a person. My mindset began to evolve. I stopped seeing myself as a failure and started seeing myself as someone capable of achieving great things. I learned to silence the voice of doubt that used to hold me back, and I started to trust in my own strength. I've gone through countless challenges, many of which tested my faith and resolve. But instead of breaking me, those challenges forged me into someone stronger. Every failure became a lesson. Every setback became an opportunity to rise higher. The more I failed, the more I learned. And the more I learned, the more I grew. And that's when the real transformation happened. It wasn't just in the external things. Sure, I started seeing success in areas I had never imagined before, but the true breakthrough was internal. I had become someone who was no longer defined by my circumstances. I had stopped playing the victim. I had stopped waiting for things to change and started creating the life I wanted, one decision at a time. I look at where I am today, and I can't help but be proud of how far I've come. I'm no longer stuck in the same cycle of failure and frustration. I built something meaningful, something that reflects who I am, not who I used to be. I'm no longer broken. I'm stronger, wiser, and more determined than ever to keep moving forward. But I want you to understand something. I'm not special. I'm not some extraordinary person who was destined for success. I'm just like you. The only difference between where I was and where I am now is the decision I made. The decision to take control of my life, to stop waiting for things to get better, and to start creating the change I wanted to see. That's the power of one decision. It's not about waiting for the perfect moment. It's about making the decision to change now, even when it feels impossible. It's about choosing to believe in yourself when no one else does. It's about knowing that you have the power to change your story, no matter where you are right now. So where are you in your journey? Are you still stuck in the same place I was, feeling like you're not enough? Or are you ready to make that decision? The decision that will change everything. The decision that will unlock the transformation you've been waiting for. You don't have to have it all figured out. You don't have to wait for the right circumstances. The moment to make a change is now. Right here, right now. The decision to turn your life around is in your hands. It's always been in your hands. I want to challenge you to make that decision today. Don't wait. Don't let another day pass by where you're stuck in the same place. Don't let fear, doubt, or uncertainty hold you back. You have everything you need to create the life you've always dreamed of. The only thing standing in your way is the decision to take that first step. I made that decision, and it changed my life. And I know that if you make the decision to take control of your life, it can change yours too. So ask yourself, are you ready? Are you ready to make the decision that will transform your life forever? If the answer is yes, then it's time to take action. No more excuses. No more waiting. The life you want is waiting for you on the other side of that decision. It's time to claim it. The journey may not be easy, but I promise you it will be worth it. And I'll be here cheering you on, because I know that you have what it takes. One decision is all it takes to start the transformation. So what are you waiting for? Your future is calling. Go make that decision. Your future is in your hands. Today is the day. Right now, you have the power to change everything. The question is, will you stay stuck in the past, or will you take that first step toward the life you've always dreamed of? The truth is, the life you want is already waiting for you. It's just on the other side of one decision, the decision to stop letting your circumstances define you. The decision to take control, to believe in yourself, and to trust that you have what it takes to make a real change. You may be scared. You may feel like you're not ready. You may be unsure of the next step. But I'm here to tell you that you don't have to have all the answers right now. You don't have to see the whole path ahead of you. What you need is the courage to take that first step. That's where the change begins. It doesn't matter where you're starting from. It doesn't matter what mistakes you've made or how many times you've failed. The only thing that matters is that you make the decision to rise above your current circumstances, to believe that you deserve more than the life you're living. One decision is all it takes to begin transforming your life. It starts with you. No one else can make this decision for you. No one else can take this step on your behalf. But you have everything you need to succeed. You have the power, the strength, and the will to create the life you desire. Today is your day. Your future is calling you. Don't let fear or doubt keep you from stepping into your greatness. You are capable of achieving things you've only dreamed of. But it all starts with that one decision. Will you make it? The life you've always dreamed of is within reach. It's waiting for you to claim it. Don't let this moment pass. The time for change is now. Take that first step. Make the decision. Your future starts today.